Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah here. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Chelik Gimel, and Yirtzeh Hashem today we will be learning Daf Ayin Ches Amud Aleph. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos. We pick up today on the very bottom line of Ayin Zayin Amud Beis, Siman Shin Aleph Sif Zayin. Our learning should be a schus for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael Hanisunim Batzar Ubashivya Ha'imdim Bein Bayom Ubein Bayabasha Hamakim Yerachem Aleihem V'Yitzieh Mitzar L'Rvacha Me'afela La'ira Mishibud L'Geula Hashta Bagalo V'Zman Kariv and Amar Amen. Our learning should be a schus Refuah Shalema for Moshe Meir ben Esther Fradel, for Rachel Shalva bas Itel Freda, for Tzvi ben Leah Miriam Chava Hadassah bas Rezel Serel, Devora bas Shosha Bina B'Sayv Shar Chayli Yisrael. The Rabbeinu Shalom should also watch over our brothers and sisters who find themselves in harm's way. B'chol Makom Shehem. So, I mentioned already when we began Siman Shin Aleph that Shin Aleph marks a turning point in Chelik Gimel of Mishnah Berurah. From the beginning of Chelik Gimel until now, we've been discussing Hilchos Shabbos, but we really have been learning the positive commandments, the mitzvahs aseh, the things that we need to do for Shabbos. So we spoke about preparing food for Shabbos, right? All of the halachas of hatamana and shehiyah and hatmana. We learned about Kiddush. We learned about the Su'udais. We learned about davening. We learned about Kriyas HaTorah. We learned about Shalosh Shudas. We learned about Havdalah. We learned about Malava Malka. Those are all the things that we need to do on Shabbos, Kavod Shabbos, Einik Shabbos, etc., etc. Now that we've reached Siman Shin Aleph, now we're turning the corner and we're starting to speak about the Isurim, the prohibitions that are Negeah on Shabbos. Now, the beginning of Shin Aleph began in kind of a very sort of low-key way. We started off with a very interesting Isser. We started off with the question of how is a person supposed to walk on Shabbos? We said you're not allowed to run on Shabbos unless you're running for a Dvar Mitzvah. What's wrong with running on Shabbos? Well, v'chibadetoi me'asois drachecha. You have to honor Shabbos. Me'asois drachecha. You don't do your typical things, and you don't walk in the typical way. You don't rush around like it's a weekday and you're all busy going to the office, going to the store, etc., etc. Instead, you walk slowly, relaxed. You don't take a psiagasa, etc., etc. Now, with Siv Zayin, we're kind of really starting to get into the nitty-gritty here. We're going to tackle the subject of Hoitzah. So what is the Isser of Hoitzah? The Isser of Hoitzah, what we know colloquially as carrying on Shabbos. You're not allowed to take something and transfer it from one type of rishus, a domain, to another type of rishus, another type of domain. So from 30,000 feet, when you're inside your house, you're in a rishus hayachid. You're in a private domain. When you're in your backyard is surrounded by a fence, you're in a rishus hayachid. You're in a private domain. You go out into the street, again, this is from 30,000 feet, to get into the weeds and the details of what really makes a rishus hayachid, what really makes a rishus harabim, that we got to go into Chelik Dalet. That's not the jurisdiction of Chelik Gimel. But again, 30,000 feet. You go out from your house to Rishus HaYachid, the private domain, and you go out into the Rishus HaRabim, you go into the public domain, you go into the street. If you're carrying something, if you pick up something from Rishus HaYachid, so you made an Akira, you uprooted it from the private domain, from Rishus HaYachid, you take it out to the Rishus HaRabim, to the public domain, and you make a Hanacha, you put it down, you have just performed the malacha da'araisa of Hoitzah. This is a biblically prohibited action. You took something from Rishus HaYachid, you put it into Rishus HaRabim. Vice versa is also asur. You can't take something from Rishus HaRabim and bring it into Rishus HaYachid. There's also another aspect of the malacha of Hoitzah, which is that you're not allowed to carry something for Dalet Amos in the Rishus HaRabim. You're outside in the street in the Rishus HaRabim, you're not allowed to carry something for Dalet Amos in the Rishus HaRabim. Again, from 30,000 feet, that is the Meleches Isser, the forbidden labor of Hoitzah, what we call carrying on Shabbos, and that's what we're going to start getting into the weeds of over here. Now, if you take a look at Sif Zayin, on the bottom of Ayin Zayin and Beis, you see right away that it opens up with the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Tez Zayin, the bottom line of the Mishnah Berurah on Ayin Zayin and Beis. We're going to go straight into the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ayin Bebiar Halacha. He sends us right away to the Bir Halacha. Ma shekasavnu, what we have written in the Bir Halacha, Ktsas Psicha, a little bit of a hakdama, a little bit of a preface, Siman zeh, for this Siman Shin Aleph, this Siman Shin Gimel. And also, this preface that he writes in the Bir Halacha, it's negaya here to Siman Shin Aleph, it's also negaya later on to Siman Shin Gimel. So we're going to turn our attention right away to the Bir Halacha. Bir Halacha Dibra Maschil Kol Hayoitze. We're not going to do the entire Bir Halacha inside. Right now, I want to see the beginning of this Bir Halacha. Now, when we talk about carrying something, when we talk about taking an item and either taking it outside from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, or bringing it inside from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, or carrying it Daled Amos in the Rosh Hashanah, the first thing that we have to take a look at is, what is this item? What is this item, and how exactly are we transporting it? So the first thing that we have to do is we have to categorize the item. What kind of item is it? Let's take a look here at the Bir Halacha. Klole dine hoitza misimin zeh umisimin shin gimel hu zeh. The rules, the guidelines that govern the malacha of hoitza, the guidelines that pertain to this Siman Shin Aleph, and to Siman Shin Gimel are as follows. And we're going to see for now the first one of these guidelines that the Chavetz Chaim lays out. Says the Chavetz Chaim in the Bir Halacha, the davar she'enoi malbush, something that is not categorized as a garment, v'loi tachshit, it's also not categorized as an adornment, a piece of jewelry, mikri masui, anything else is considered a burden. So what the Chavetz Chaim just did is, the Chavetz Chaim told us that when we look at hoitzah, the first thing we need to do is we need to categorize what is the object that is being transported. And the Chavetz Chaim gives us three categories. The first category he gives us is a malbush, a garment. If you're wearing a coat and you walk from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, so you transported your coat, right? Your coat was in the Rosh Hashanah. It was in your house. You took it out of the coat closet. You put it on in your house. You went out to the Rosh Hashanah. Now your coat has been transported from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah. Is there a problem with that? No, it's a malbush. It's a garment. You're allowed to wear a garment and take an article of clothing from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. Why? Why is that okay? The reason it's okay is because it's a garment. You're wearing it on your body. It serves your body. It protects you. It protects you from the elements, right? It's a coat. It protects you from the cold. The shirt, it covers you up. So it is a garment that you are wearing. It serves your body. It is bottle. It is nullified against your body. It is considered subservient to your body. We don't look at it that you're transporting. Oh, I just transported my coat from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. No, you wore your coat, and your coat is considered part of you. So that's not hoitzah. We don't look at that as a problem of hoitzah. So that's a malbush. That's a garment. That was category number one that the Chavetz Chaim mentioned. Category number two is v'loi tachshit. It's not an adornment. Okay, a tachshit. So when we speak about women, tachshit is very easy to understand. A necklace. A woman is wearing a necklace. Is a necklace a garment? No, right? A necklace is not a garment. A woman says, I got dressed. That means that she put on her dress. I put on my jewelry. Yeah, first I had to get dressed, then I had to put on my jewelry. Putting on the jewelry is not getting dressed because a necklace is not a garment. And just in a more technical sense, the reason a piece of jewelry is not a garment is because a piece of jewelry doesn't serve the same purpose as the purpose that a garment serves. A garment protects your body. It, like I said, it protects you from the elements. it covers you up. That's not what a piece of jewelry does. A piece of jewelry is an adornment. I'm going to use a funny word in the context of this conversation. It dresses you up. It makes you fancy. It makes you pretty. It pretties you up. So it's an adornment. An adornment and a garment are not the same thing. But you could have a tachshit by a man also. A watch. We'll have to speak about watches on Shabbos. Famous tshuva, Yigvis Moshe. But fine. But a watch is an adornment. It serves you. It has a function. It lets you tell the time. Nowadays, the Apple Watch, you're not wearing an Apple Watch on Shabbos, I guess. But nowadays, a watch does a lot more than just tell you the time. But it serves you. It has a functionality for you. And it is also an adornment, right? A person wears a Rolex. A person wears a Patek. A person wears even lesser, a nice Seiko with a fancy band. It's an adornment. So a man also has a tachshit. Are you allowed to transport a tachshit outside from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, or bring it inside from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah? Is a woman allowed to wear a necklace on Shabbos? Yes. Again, really for the same reason as the clothing. It is subservient to you. Just as the garment is subservient to you, the adornment, the piece of jewelry, is also considered subservient to you. So you're allowed to wear clothing. You're allowed to wear a tachshit. So those are the first two categories that the Chavetz Chaim gave us. Category number 3 is, if it's not a malbush, if it's not an article of clothing, and it's not a tachshit, it's not an adornment, so then what is it? Says the Chavetz Chaim, if it's not any of those, mikri masui. Now it's called a burden. What does that mean it's called a burden? It is something external to you. The malbush is not external to you. The malbush is bottled to you. The tachshit is not external to you. It is bottled to you. A masui, a burden, doesn't mean that it's heavy. Doesn't have to be heavy. But a masui is something that is external to you. Now it's a burden. A masui, you're not allowed to carry on Shabbos. You're not allowed to transport a masui from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, Dalet Amos outside in Rosh Hashanah. So a masui now becomes problematic. Therefore, continues the Chavetz Chaim, va'aser min HaTorah. To do haitzah on a masui, so to do haitzah on something that's not a malbush, and it's not a tachshit, and instead it's a masui, that's an issa daraisa of haitzah. And since it's an issa daraisa, uvemezid chayiv kares, if you do this intentionally, bemezid, person would be chayiv kares. Ubeshoigig, if he does it, I'm going to use the word by accident, that's really not what shoigig means. If you do it b'shoigig, inadvertently, chatas, you would have to bring a carbon chatas. V'hainu, and now the Chavetz Chaim defines for us what shoigig means. V'hainu, what does shoigig mean? Im hoitzi oisa kiderech hoitza asa b'choil. These rules that the Chavetz Chaim just said, that if it's a tachshit or a malbush, you're okay. But if it's a masui, if you take it out intentionally, you're chayiv kares, and if you do it b'shoigig, you have to be a karbakatos. V'hainu, that's true. Im hoitzi oisa kiderech hoitza asa b'choil. This is only true if the way you transport the item is in a normal fashion. So if you have a masui, you have a briefcase. How do you carry a briefcase? You carry a briefcase with the handle on your hand, or with the shoulder strap on your shoulder. But if you take a briefcase on Shabbos, and somebody takes it from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, that's a masui. If he does it b'mezid, he's chayiv kares. If he does it b'shoigig, he's chayiv to bring a karbakatos. But what if he doesn't carry it out in a normal fashion? What if somehow he puts the briefcase on his head and he walks out into the street with the briefcase on his head? That's not a normal way of carrying a briefcase. If you do it in an abnormal way, says the Chavetz Chaim, if you take the item, the masui, out to the Rosh Hashanah in an abnormal way, you don't do it in the way that it's typically done, mikri haitzah kala achar yad, then this is called doing haitzah in an abnormal fashion. Kala achar yad literally means with the back of your hand. Usually you hold things with the palm of your hand. You don't hold things on the back of your hand. If you do it in an abnormal way, potter, then you're potter. You're not chayiv kares. You don't have to bring a karbakatos. Aval also midrabanan, but it still would be an issa derabanan. V'davar shu malbish tachshit. But if you go outside wearing an article of clothing, or you go outside wearing a piece of jewelry, mutter min HaTorah. Midaraisa, it's totally mutter. Ella, however, there are some caveats. Sheyesh kama dvarim masha asru chazal. Even though wearing clothing is 100% mutter midaraisa, even though wearing jewelry is 100% mutter midaraisa, there are some caveats. There are times when there are isurei derabanan, where even though something is a garment or something is a piece of jewelry, you're still not allowed to do haitzah with it. You're still not allowed to wear it and go outside or walk Dalet Amos in Rishus HaRabim with it. And we're going to see some cases of that today. I'll give you one just off the top of my head. The Mechaber is going to say, if you have a very large shoe, so you're a size 7.5, you got a nice small foot, and you want to walk outside with a size 13 shoe. Now, a shoe is a garment. It's a malbush. Midaraisa, you could take the size 13 shoe, put it on your foot, and walk outside. Midrabanan, you can't. Why? Because Chazal, look, they said you're a 7.5. You're wearing a size 13. What's going to happen? Halfway down the block, the shoe is going to fall off. You'll stick your foot back in. You'll take another 3 steps. It's going to fall off again. Ultimately, what are you going to do? You're going to pick it up and you're going to walk with it. So Chazal said, even though a shoe is a malbush and midaraisa, 100% you're allowed to wear it. You are allowed to wear it outside on Shabbos. Since it's very likely that it's going to fall off, we're afraid if it falls off, you might come to pick it up. You might come to carry it 4 amos in Rishus HaRabim. So midrabanan, you're not allowed to wear it. A piece of jewelry. All jewelry, midaraisa, you're allowed to wear it outside on Shabbos. Yet, Chazal came along and Chazal said, if there is a type of piece of jewelry where it is very common that a woman walking out in the street would take it off to show it to her friend. So let's say a woman is wearing a beautiful eternity band on her finger. A woman who wants to show her friend her new eternity band that she just got for her 25th anniversary, she doesn't take it off her finger and show it to her friend. She goes, you see my new ring? Isn't that beautiful? Maybe she'll turn her hand the other way so you can notice that the diamonds go all the way around. But she's generally not taking it off and handing it to her friend. So could you go out with the eternity band? Yes, you can. But if there's a type of item where it's very common that when you want to show it to somebody, you take it off to show it to somebody, then Chazal said you're not allowed to wear it. Why? It's a takshit. Yes, you're right. Midaraisa, it's 100% mutter because it's a takshit. But midarabanan, it's aser because they were afraid you're going to take it off and you're going to carry it for 4 amos in Rishus HaRabim. Okay, so we're going to stop over here in the Biur Halacha. This is the primer that we needed to see from the Chavetz Chaim. So basically, let's just go 30,000 feet. We're embarking on an analysis of the Isser of Haitzah. The question of the day is, what kind of items are you allowed to go out with? What kind of items are you not allowed to go out with? What we saw in the Chavetz Chaim was, look, if something is a malbush, if something is a garment, midaraisa, 100% you're allowed to go out with it. If something is a takshit, an adornment, a piece of jewelry, 100% midaraisa, you're allowed to go out with it. Having said that, midrabanan, there are some caveats. Midrabanan, there are times when you're not allowed to go out with the garment, when you're not allowed to go out with a takshit. How about if something is a masui? If something is a burden, it's not a malbish, it's not a takshit, it's external to you, it's not bottled to you. That's where, right away, the Issa Daraisa of Haitzah is going to come in. You can't go out. You're at that showcase. You can't go out with a shopping bag full of stuff. Now you're starting to talk mamish Isurei Daraisa of Haitzah. How about if you carry something in an abnormal way? If you carry something in an abnormal way, so that's not going to be an Issa Daraisa because it's klachayat. But it will be an Isser D'Rabbanan. Okay. Against the backdrop of that Hakdama, let's dive into Siv Zayin, says the Mechaber. So the Mechaber is going to start right away with giving us 3 prerequisites that need to be filled. Okay, so we're going to make a checklist now. There are 3 boxes that need to be ticked off in order for an act of Haitzah being an Issa Daraisa. And against the backdrop that we just saw, you'll understand these checkboxes right away. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Kol hayoytze bedavar, anybody who goes out with something, she'enoi takshit. Okay? Checkbox number 1. He's going out with something. Is it a takshit? Is it an adornment? Is it a piece of jewelry? What is it? No, it's not a takshit. So kol yotzei b'davar she'eino takshit. You go out with something that's not a takshit. Ve'eino derech malbush. And for now, I'm going to teach this in the very simple way. We're going to see a little bit of a wrinkle in the Mishnah Berurah, but let's go mikala l'kavid. Let's go from simple to more complex. So the first thing that Mechaber said, eino takshit. You go out with something that's not a takshit. Ve'eino derech malbush. And you're not wearing it as a garment. Okay? So you're going out with something. Okay? Let's go through the checklist. This thing that you're going out with, is it a takshit? No, it's not a takshit. Okay, is it an article of clothing? Is it something that you're wearing as an article of clothing? Says the Mechaber, no. So 2 checklists, 2 checkboxes so far. You went out with something and it's not a takshit. And you're not wearing it as a garment. And you transported it out to the Rishus Harabim in the normal way. You took it out, kiderech, in the fashion, in the typical fashion of how you carry something like that out. So you picked up an attaché case and you took it outside to the Rishus Harabim. That's the normal way of taking out an attaché case. You took a sefer and you tucked it under your arm and you walked out carrying the sefer. Is it a takshit? No, the sefer is not a takshit. Is it a garment? Are you wearing it as a garment? No, it's not. It's a book. Did you carry it out in the normal fashion? Yeah, you tucked it under your arm. You didn't carry it out on your head. So if you check off all of those 3 boxes, says the Mechaber, chayiv, congratulations, issa daraisa, you're chayiv. What does chayiv mean? Chayiv means if you did this b'mezid, chas v'chalila, you're chayiv karis. If you did it b'shoigeg, then you have to bring a karbachatos when there's a Beis HaMikdash. Okay? So that's the opening here of Siv Zayin. You want to know how you could be over the Issa Daraisa of Hoitzah? You take out something, it's not a takshit, you're not wearing it as a garment, you carried it in the normal fashion, so it's not klachayad. Congratulations, Issa Daraisa. Says the Mishnah Berurah, cut design. We saw Ayin Bibir Alacha Machikasav Ksas B'Sichel Sibir Zev Simchin Gimel. Ice cut Yud Zayin. Now, Ice cut Yud Zayin. I told you that there's a little wrinkle here in the Mishnah Berurah. It's right here in Ice cut Yud Zayin. The second checkbox that the Mishnah Berurah said you have to check off is Einoi Derech Malbush. Now, the way I translated that was, you're not wearing it as a garment. If you're wearing it as a garment, you're wearing a coat, it's not Hoitzah Daraisa. You're wearing a scarf, it's not Hoitzah Daraisa. You're wearing socks, it's not Hoitzah Daraisa. You're wearing shoes, it's not Hoitzah Daraisa. Why? Because it's a garment. It's a garment, it's bottled to you. It's not called Hoitzah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, there's a little bit of a hidden meaning over here as well in the Mechaber. Note what the Mechaber said and what the Mechaber did not say. The Mechaber said, Kol hayotzei b'davar she'eino takshit. Then he said, Ve'eino derech malbush. What do those words mean? Ve'eino derech malbush means he's not taking it out in the manner of a malbush. You know, the Mechaber could have said, Ve'eino malbush. It's not an article of clothing. That's not what the Mechaber said. The Mechaber wrote, Ve'enoi derech malbush. Says the Mishnah Berurah, there's something hidden between the lines here. What's hidden between the lines? Well, let's think about it for a second. The Mechaber didn't really have to tell me the halacha that you're allowed to go outside wearing a shirt. Nobody thought that on Shabbos you have to walk outside naked. Because, what do you mean? You can't transport your clothing from inside the house to the outside the house. That was never Havamina. Right? We know you're allowed to wear clothing outside. Maybe that halacha should be tucked in somewhere, but derech agav, and there should be a little Mishnah Berurah that says, davar pashut. And the Mishnah Berurah would say, mipnei shehu batel elav v'davar pashuthu. Right? But really, there's no need for the Mechaber to tell me that you're allowed to go outside when you're dressed. That should not be really one of the checkboxes that need to be checked off over here. So, what hidden chiddush is the Mechaber coming to tell me? So the Mishnah Berurah is going to tell me like this. The Mishnah Berurah is going to tell me, when it comes to derech malbush, there are 2 different possible reasons why derech malbush would make that you're not over the Issa Daraisa of Hoitzah. Reason number 1 is a davar pashut. Your shirt is a malbush. Your shirt is a garment. You're wearing it as a garment. Therefore, it's bottled to you. Therefore, when you go outside, it's not considered carrying. It's not considered oitzah. And you're potter. But there's another reason why wearing something could also make that you're not over in Issa Daraisa. Again, trying to explain. The Mechaber gives us 3 checkboxes that you need to check off in order to be chayiv, in order to be over the Issa Daraisa. If you fail to check off one of these checkboxes, you're not over the Issa Daraisa. Could be you're over in Issa Darabanan, but you're not over in Issa Daraisa. The second checkbox is it derech malbush? When I read the Mechaber, what I told you is, the second checkbox is it a garment? Is it a shirt? Is it a coat? Is it pants? Is it shoes? If the answer is yes, okay, you're not over in Issa Daraisa. Issa Darabanan, we'll get to it, maybe. But Issa Daraisa, no, you can't possibly be over in Issa Daraisa with an article of clothing. Says the Mishnah Berurah, there's another chiddush here. And that is, there's another reason why, if you can't check off that checkbox, if you can't say, no, it's not derech malbush, there's another reason why that would make you potter. You know what that is? I'll give you a case where you're transporting something outside, it's not a tachshit, and you are wearing it derech malbush, but it's not an article of clothing, but since you're wearing it derech malbush, you're going to be potter. And it's the following case. Let's say your wife gave you her engagement ring. Okay? You were at a Shabbos Sheva Brachas, and it's very hot and humid, and your wife took off her engagement ring to go wash the Tilas Yadayim. Whether she has to or she doesn't have to, different discussion. We spoke about that earlier. But she took off her engagement ring to go wash the Tilas Yadayim. It's very hot and humid. Her fingers swelled up. She can't put her engagement ring back on. What's she going to do with the engagement ring? She wants to get the engagement ring back home. In the meantime, she gave you the engagement ring. You're holding the engagement ring. You're holding the engagement ring. What are you going to do with the engagement ring? You want to get the engagement ring back home. You come up with a genius idea. You take the engagement ring and you slip it on your finger. Now you walk out to Rosh Hashanah wearing your wife's engagement ring. Okay, let's break it down. What did the Mechaber say? Kol hayoytze b'davar she'eino tachshit. If you go out with something that's not a tachshit, now you'll sit there and you'll say, oh, an engagement ring is a piece of jewelry, it's a tachshit. Is an engagement ring with a diamond on it a tachshit for a man? Is that a piece of jewelry for a man? No. Men don't walk out with diamond engagement rings. So guess what? For the man, it's not a tachshit. Okay. Next. Einoi derech malbush. Is it an article of clothing? No. A ring is not an article of clothing. The only thing that a ring could be is a tachshit. It can't be a garment. The same way a necklace is not a garment. A ring is not a garment. So this ring is not a garment. Okay, so what is it? Well, we learned in the Bir Halacha, if it's not a malbush and it's not a tachshit, then it's a masui. So you would look at this and you would say, well, l'chayri, this guy is chayiv. He went out with something that's not a malbush, it's not a tachshit, because a diamond engagement ring is not a tachshit for a man, and he took it outside from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. So l'chayri, he's chayiv. L'chayri, it's daraisa. No, he's not. You know why? Because since he wore it, it's not going to be an Issa Daraisa. Why? Not because it's a malbush. It's not a malbush. Not because it's a tachshit. It's not a tachshit. You know why he's potter? Because he didn't take it out kederech sheregilin lahoitzi oisei davar. That's not the way a man transports a diamond engagement ring outside. If a man has to carry a diamond engagement ring, he puts it in a box or he puts it in an envelope and he carries it. He doesn't put it on his finger. That's not the way a man transports a diamond engagement ring. A woman, if she has to transport her friends or her daughter's diamond engagement ring, she can stick it on her finger. And for her, it would be a tachshit. And for her, it would be 100% mutter to walk home with it. But for a man does not transport a diamond engagement ring by putting it on his finger. So if he puts it on his finger, it's not a tachshit. It's not a malbush. But it's not a masui. It is a masui. But he's not chayiv because he didn't do haitziyoi kederech sheragil l'haitziyoi sedavar. He transported this diamond engagement ring kalachar yad. He did it in an abnormal fashion, and therefore it wouldn't be an issa daraisa. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut in Yud Zayin. That's what the Mechaber means. Ve'enoi derech malbush. When the Mechaber said, you want to know how you're going to be over this daraisa of hoitzah. Well, the first thing is, whatever you're carrying can't be a takshit, because if it's a takshit, then it's bottled to you. You can't be over this daraisa. The second thing is, it can't be a malbush, because if it's your shirt and it's a malbush, you can't be over this daraisa. Says the Mishnah Berurah, I didn't need the Mechaber to tell me that. I didn't need the Mechaber to tell me that if it's a shirt, you're not over the Issa Daraisa. What did I need the Mechaber to tell me? Another chap. What I needed him to tell me is, you're only over the Issa Daraisa if this non-tachshit that you're carrying, you don't carry it derech malbush. If you have a non-tachshit, if you have a diamond engagement ring and you're a man, so it's a non-tachshit, but you carry it derech malbush, you put it on, you're not going to be over Issa Daraisa. Why? Because you're carrying it with a shinui. Why is that a shinui? Because if it's not a takshit, then it's not normal to wear it. If it's not a takshit, why are you wearing it? If it's not a takshit, you want to carry it, you carry it biyadayim. You don't put it on your hand. So the fact that it's derech malbush is going to pater you from a daraisa. So take a look inside. The Mishnah is cutting your zayin. Ve'enoi derech malbush. Di'ilu haitziyoi derech malbush. Because if you took this non-takshit, right? That's the way the Mechaber opened. You went out with something that's not a takshit. Says the Mishnah Berurah, if you took this non-takshit, you took this thing that's not a takshit, and you wore it, that you didn't carry it out in the normal fashion. Because whenever somebody transports something that's not a takshit, he carries it with his hands. He doesn't put it on. And therefore, you would be potter. Let's just see how it's cut in your chest before I say anything else. In order to be chayiv daraisa, you have to take it out in the normal fashion. Hainu shaloi b'shinoi. This means that you didn't take it out with a shinoi. Ice cut in your test. In this case, chayiv, you would be over this a daraisa. Die, you should know. The chamakim shenemra b'hilchos Shabbos chayiv. Very important rule, golden rule for us to know going forward. Whenever we see the word chayiv in the context of Hilchos Shabbos, that means im also b'mezid. If you did it b'mezid, chayiv kares, the person is chayiv kares. Or b'shoigig, if he did it b'shoigig. What does b'shoigig mean? Says the Mishnah Berurah. Dahainu. What does shoigig mean? Sheshachach shu Shabbos. You forgot that it was Shabbos. You turned on the fire, chas v'kalila, because you forgot that it's Shabbos. You thought it was Sunday morning. Or you did something because of amaratzis. You didn't know that there was such an isser. Somebody didn't know that making a fire is one of the lamites malachas that you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. So he knows that it's Shabbos, but he didn't know that it was aser. That's what's called shoigig. Shoigig is, I forgot that it was Shabbos, or I didn't know that this was aser. Chayiv chatos. So whenever we see chayiv in the context of Hilchos Shabbos, it means if you did it b'mezid, you chayiv kares. If you did it b'shoigig, you have to bring a korban chatos. In Shin Lamadal, the Ramah talks about, very nice, I'm chayiv a korban chatos. I don't have a Beis Hamikdash. What do I do? We'll talk about it over there. Points out the Mishnah Berurah just another technical detail here. Im shachach eze davar etzloi. If somebody forgot that he was carrying something, so he knows that it's Shabbos, he knows that hoitzah is aser, he just didn't realize that he was carrying something when he walked out of the house. Im shachach eze davar etzloi v'hoitziyoi b'shoigig l'rishus harabim. If somebody forgot that he was holding something and he walked out with it to rishus harabim. So it's not the classical shoigig. Again, classical shoigig is, I walked out with it because I forgot it's Shabbos. I thought it was Sunday. Or I walked out with it because I had no idea that hoitzah was aser. No. Over here, he knows it's Shabbos. He knows hoitzah is aser. He just forgot that he's holding something. Einoi chayev alei. You're not chayev a korban chatos for that. Why? The meleches machasheves asra Torah. Because another golden rule of Shabbos. In order to be over in Issa Daraisa on Shabbos, it has to be meleches machasheves. Meleches machasheves means it has to be intentional malacha. You have to have done it with intent. That's the only time you could be chayiv. You forgot that you were holding something. You walked out. It's not intentional malacha. Now, V'dina Rishus Harabim, as far as getting into the weeds of what constitutes Rishus HaYochid, a private domain, what constitutes a Rishus Harabim, a public domain, Ayin L'Kavam B'Simin Shin Mem Hey Siv Zayin B'Mashak Tesav Nusham. For that, we got to get Mirz Hashem B'Ez Hashem Yisbarach to Chelik Dalet. Okay, let's pause for a second. So what was the opening shot over here? Siman Shin Aleph Siv Zayin, the beginning of getting into the details of Haitzah. The opening shot was as follows. In order to be over the Daraisa of Haitzah, there are check boxes that you have to check off. First of all, if the thing that you went out with is on your person and it's a tachshit, then you definitely can't be over the Daraisa. Since it's a tachshit, it's bottled to you, it's not considered Haitzah. If the thing that you went out with is a garment that you're wearing, then it's bottled to you. You can't be over the Yisr Daraisa of Haitzah. We threw in Mishnah Berurah is cutting Yud Zayin, even if it's not a tachshit, but you're wearing it, like your wife's engagement ring. It's not a tachshit for a man, right? But you're wearing it derech malbush, but it's not a malbush, it's not a garment. It's also not an Issa Daraisa. Why? Because of the third checkbox. The third checkbox is that in order to be over the Issa Daraisa, you have to be transporting it in the normal fashion. For a man to wear a diamond engagement ring is not called transporting a diamond engagement ring in a normal fashion. The way a man transports a diamond engagement ring is by carrying it. That's the way he transports it. He doesn't put it on his finger. So if he put it on his finger, you didn't check off the third checkbox. You didn't transport it in the normal fashion. And therefore, it would not be an Issa Daraisa. Okay. Now we go, top line here on Ayin Ches Amud Aleph. Let's go to the next piece of the Mechaber. All right. So now let's go to a tachshit. If something is a tachshit, then midaraisa, you're always allowed to go out with it. Now, it doesn't mean that you could go out with it carrying it in your hand. A necklace is a tachshit. So could you carry a tachshit outside? No, you can't. But you could wear it. You could wear it, even though it's not a garment, you could still wear it outside because it's a tachshit. So it's bottled to you. Okay, so now let's go into the world of tachshit. Says the Mechaber, the chol tachshit shehu rafui. If you're wearing something that is classified as a tachshit, so therefore, really midaraisa, you could go out with it. But it's rafui. It's very loose. She'ef shaloi bekal lipoil. Very easily could fall off of you. In my mind, what I'm thinking about right now is, let's say a woman during the spring or during the summer, she's wearing a pretty outfit and she wants to take like a silk scarf, and she's not going to knot it around her neck. She's not going to make a bow. She's just going to drape it. It's just draped over her shoulder. Maybe it's not even around her neck. She wants to sling it over her shoulder. It's a beautiful silk piece, and it complements her dress beautifully. It's a tachshit. That's what it is. It's a tachshit. Midaraisa, tachshit. Okay? So fine, it's bottled to her. She's allowed to go out with it. But it's rafui. It's not fastened in any way. There's nothing holding it on. If she walks the wrong way, it's going to fall off. Forget if there's a breeze. If there's a breeze, it's definitely going to blow off. Her baby is definitely going to yank it and pull it off. Says the Mechaber, the chol tachshit shu rafui, any tachshit, but it's something that's very loose. She'ef shaloi bekal lipoil, it could very easily fall off. Aser lotzeis bay. You're not allowed to go out with it. V'im yotza potter, but if you do, you're potter. What does potter mean? Potter in Hilchos Shabbos means potter. You're exempt if you do it. Aval aser, but it's forbidden, right? Potter means you're exempt. Okay, I mean, if I go out wearing my shirt, are you going to tell me, oh, you go out wearing a shirt on Shabbos, you're potter? No, it's mutter. It's 100% permissible. Don't tell me it's potter. I'm potter. I'm exempt if I do it. Of course I'm exempt. It's 100% mutter. Potter means you're exempt, but you shouldn't have done it. Potter, avalaser, you're exempt, but it's forbidden. So you go out with a tachshit, but it's a tachshit that's very loose, that could very easily fall off. You're not allowed to go out. If you do, you're potter. Why aren't you allowed to go out with it? Says the Mishnah Berurah. Also, you're not allowed to go out with it. Why? Dilma nafil, because we're afraid it might fall off. What's going to happen if it falls off? She'll pick it up and she'll carry it Dalet Amos in Rosh Hashanah. To carry it, even though it's a takshit, you can't carry the takshit. You can't carry the necklace. You can't carry the scarf. So we're afraid. Yes, it's a takshit. So when she's wearing it, technically with Araisa, she could go out. But the Chachamim don't let, because we're afraid it's going to fall off. She'll pick it up and carry it to Dalet in Rosh Hashanah. I'm not picking on women. The same halakha would apply to a man. Let's go weiter in the Mechaber. Very similar case. Second line down, middle of the line. V'isha loy teitze b'tachshitim. A woman is not allowed to go out with jewelry. Shedarka l'sholfam, pirish la'asira me'aleha. Any kind of jewelry that it's the derech that you take off, or lahar oisam, and show them to other people, you're not allowed to go out with it on Shabbos. Midaraisa, it's a takshit. You're allowed to go out with it. Midrabanan, you're not allowed to. Why? We're afraid. She's going to take it off, show it to our friend, and come to carry it. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Shadarka l'sholfam, v'chayshina, because we're concerned, Dilma b'saych kach, maybe because she's going to take it off to show it to somebody, Asya l'asiyinu, arba amis b'Rosh Hashanah, she'll come to carry it. Okay, next installment. 3 lines down, the Ramah Hagav Ayin Kaban Siman Shin Gimel Sifir Ches Im Osir Afilu B'Chatzar or B'Bayis. We're going to see later in Siman Shin Gimel that it's possible that you're not allowed to wear these things even inside the house or even inside a Chatzar, which is technically a Rosh Hashanah. We'll deal with that in Shin Gimel. Says the Mechaber Vayter, last word, 3rd line. Hilkach. Based on the above. Okay, what does this mean? Based on what? Based on the first installment of the Mechaber. In order to be over Daraisa, the thing that you're going out with has to be not a takshit, not a malbish, it's not a garment. It has to be that you're transporting it in the normal fashion. If you're transporting it in an abnormal fashion, it can't be in a Daraisa. Based on that, says the Mechaber Hilkah, therefore, Lo yetze ish, a man cannot go out. Loi b'sayif, not with a sword. So he might be wearing a belt with a sheath, and he has the sword in a sheath. He wants to go out like that on Shabbos. Nope, you can't do that. V'loi b'keshes, he has a bow. He's an archer. He has a bow. How do you go out with a bow? You drape your hand inside the bow, and you have the bow on your shoulder. Nope, can't go out with a bow. V'loi b'tris, pirish mogen, can't go out with a shield. So you have a shield, it has like a handle on the back or a loop. You put your arm in it, you can't go out with a shield. V'loi ba'alah, you can't go out with a club. V'loi b'roimach, you can't go out with a spear. V'loi b'kelim she'enam takshit, and not with any other kind of utensils that are not considered takshitim. So they're a masui, they're a burden. V'im yotza, and if you do go out with any of these things, chayev chatos, you're chayev chatos. So we're talking about like a whole warrior over here. This warrior on Shabbos. He can't go out with his sword. He can't go out with his bow. He can't go out with his shield. He can't go out with his club. He can't go out with his spear. He can't go out with other kind of kalim that are not takshitim. And if he does, it's an issa daraisa. Okay, let's break it down. First thing you have to know is there's a Gemara in Masechta Shabbos, I think it's on Samach Gimel, that tells us very clearly that klei milchama, weapons of war, are not considered tachshitim. They're not considered adornments in peacetime. So let's break this down for a second. A sword. Let's remember the preface that we saw in the Bir Halacha. Is a sword a garment? Is a spear a garment? Is a shield a garment? Is a bow and arrow, is a bow a garment? These are not garments. They don't serve to cover up the body, to shield the body from the elements. The shield is called a shield. It shields you from arrows, not from the rain. These are not garments. So they're not malbushim, right? So forget that checkbox. They're not malbushim. Are they tachshitim? Now that you could see. Marine dress uniform, United States Marines don't fight with swords. Yet every Marine has a sword. Why? Because the sword is part of the Marine's dress uniform. When he wants to dress up and look chashuv, he's got the sword. So you can imagine that a sword could be considered a tachshit. But the Gemara says no. The Gemara proves from psukim that swords, weapons of war, are a gnai. They're disgraceful. War is not an honorable profession. All due respect, if there is any, to warriors, right? War is not an honorable profession. War is a scandal. It's terrible, war. So a sword is not a takshit. A sword is a gnai. It's a disgrace. The guy who's packing, that's not, oh, look, Choshev, he's packing. No, the 357 is not a takshit. The 357 is a gnai. So the Gemara says that weapons of war are not takshitim. So now, let's measure this against what we know. Guy goes out with a sword. A guy goes out with a bow. A guy goes out with a shield. Is it a malbush? Is he wearing it as a garment? No. It doesn't classify as a malbush. Is it a takshit? No. The Gemara says it's not a takshit. Well, if it's not a takshit and it's not a malbush, what is it? It's a masui. It's a burden. Are you allowed to go outside carrying a burden? No. In order to be over the Daraisa, you have to go out with it, transporting it in the normal way. Is it normal to, if you want to transport a sword, is it normal to have a belt with a sheath and transport the sword in the sheath? Yes, it is. So if you do that, it's not a takshit, it's not a malbush, and you transported it in the normal way. And therefore, it's an Issa Daraisa. That's what the Mechaber is saying. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah over here. Says the Mishnah Berurah Chav Beis. Loi b'saif, you can't go out with a sword. Afilu imu chagur b'masnav, even if it's on a belt around your waist, you still can't go out with it. It's still an Issa Daraisa. Why? Well, it's not a malbush and it's not a takshit, and you're carrying it in the normal way. That's the way you transport swords during the week, in a sheath around your belt. So you checked off all the boxes. And this is an Issa Daraisa. V'loi ba'aloch of kibble. What's an Allah? Daim lamakel. This is a stick. V'roisha ogul. It's got a ball on top. K'may kador. So this is AKA a club. Okay. Now we go to the next installment of the Mechaber. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 lines down. In the middle of the line, in the Mechaber, right by the Ois Chav Daled for the Mishnah Berurah. V'loi. We're going back to the warrior. V'loi b'shiryoin. You're not allowed to go out wearing armor, okay? A coat of mail. You can't go out wearing armor. V'loi bekasta. What's a kasta? Says the Ramah Pirish Kavish Barzel. A metal helmet. You can't go outside wearing a steel helmet. V'loi b'magafayim. Pirish ad piloi shel barzel. You can't go outside with steel shin guards. So this is armor for your lower legs. Okay, what are all of these items that we just spoke about? These are all garments. These are all malbushim. They're not typical garments, but they are garments. What's a kasta? It's a helmet. What's a helmet? A hat. It happens to be a hat made out of steel. What's a shiryoin? It's a coat of mail. Okay, guess what? A coat of mail is a cloak. It happens to be a cloak that's made out of metal rings. What are magapayim? Magapayim are shin guards. You wear them on your legs. These are malbushim. You wear them on your body and they protect your body. These are malbushim. Guess what? Midaraisa, this can't be usher, midaraisa. It's mamish a malbush. So says the Mechaber, what's the halacha? You're not allowed to go out with these. V'loi, you're not allowed to go out. B'shiryon, v'loi b'kasta, v'loi b'magapayim. But v'im yotza potter. But if you do, you're potter. Now, what does it mean potter? Why is it mutter? Why is it potter? So we'll see in the Mishnah Berurah. The reason this is potter avalosser, you're exempt, but you're not allowed to go out with them. Why aren't you allowed to go out with them? Not really because of Hilchos Shabbos. Because of Hilchos Shabbos, you are allowed to go out with them, really. The reason you're not allowed to go out with them is Maras Ayin. What's the Maras Ayin? The Maras Ayin is you come out of your house wearing a helmet and wearing a coat of mail and wearing steel shin guards. You know what it looks like? It looks like you're going to beat up your neighbor. It looks like you're going out to war. You're not allowed to go out to war on Shabbos unless it's, never. You have to if you're being attacked, fine, then it's mutter. But like this, you're not allowed to go out because you got into a spat with your neighbor and you want to go beat the you-know-what out of your neighbor. You're not allowed to do that. It looks like that's what you're doing. So it's also because of Maras Ayin. But as far as Hitzah is concerned, these are malbushim. These are clothing. Let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Kat Chav Daled. V'loi b'shiryon. What's a shiryon? V'loshayin v'shiryon kaskasim. This is talking about Goliath. He was wearing armor. The kaskasim are the scales of a fish. Armor is like scales. Potter. Over here, if you go out, you're potter. Why? Chafei. Did we do chafei? Yeah. V'miyatza potter shev umikamakam aser b'shamar sayin. Oh, I see. I didn't finish the mechaber. I'm sorry. Let's just jump back into the mechaber for a second. V'miyatza potter. If you go out with these things, you're potter. Why? Shem derech malbush. Because these are clothing. But it's still also to go out wearing these things, even though they're garments, misham marasayin, because of marasayin. What's the marasayin? Sheichashtu, people will suspect him. Sheichashtu or royim, people who see him will suspect. People will think he's going out to war. Therefore, you're not allowed to wear them even in your bedroom. That things that are also because of marasayin, you're not even allowed to do them in private. Okay, weiter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 lines off the bottom near the end of the line. V'lo yetze b'tfilin. You're not allowed to go out on Shabbos wearing tefillin. Now this is an interesting one. We'll have to see the Mishnah Berurah. So you're not allowed to put on your tefillin and go outside wearing your tefillin on Shabbos. Why? Says the Mechaber. Mipnei shetzarech la'asiram kishe yikanis l'beis hakisei. What did we say? We said a woman's, you can't go out with a takshit that could very easily fall off. Why? Because you might pick it up, you might carry it. You can't go out with a piece of jewelry that it's the derek to take off and show to somebody, because you might take it off and carry it. Well, guess what? You can't go out with tefillin. You know why? Because very often you have to take off your tefillin. When do you have to take off your tefillin? You need the Beis HaKisei. Now, when you need the Beis HaKisei, you're not going into the Beis HaKisei and taking off your tefillin in the Beis HaKisei. You're taking your tefillin off outside the Beis HaKisei. So we're afraid. You're walking outside on Shabbos wearing your tefillin. You need the Beis HaKisei. You'll take them off and you'll carry them. But one thing we see very clear from this Mechaber, the only reason you can't go out wearing your tefillin on Shabbos is because you might take them off and carry them. But other than that, it would be mutter to go out wearing your tefillin on Shabbos. Another thing we see from that is that technically it's a mutter to put tefillin on Shabbos, which is a whole interesting sugya. But let's take a look here in the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Chafav lo yetze b'tefillin. Umashma, the implication is de bebeisai ein iser lo niach tefillin. There's no iser involved in putting on tefillin in your house on Shabbos. But points out the Mishnah Berurah, v'dafka b'menichan shaloi l'shem mitzvah. That's only true if when you put them on, you're not putting them on l'shem mitzvah. Aval l'shem mitzvah aser. To put on your tefillin on Shabbos in your house in order to be mekayim the mitzvah say of tefillin, that is aser. Kanal b'siman lamed aleph shaylav bal toisif v'ayin sham b'Mishnah Berurah sif katan hay ois katan chav zayin. Okay, so yes, you're not allowed to go outside on Shabbos wearing your tefillin. Why? Because you might take them off, carry them daled amos rishos around. Says the Mishnah Berurah, it sounds like in your house you could put them on. Yes, you could put them on. If you don't put them on l'shem mitzvah, if you put them on l'shem mitzvah, it's aser. Says the Mishnah Berurah, chav zayin. Hainu dilma asir lasuya arba amos. What you see over here is the only reason you can't wear them outside on Shabbos is because you might take them off and carry them daled amos in rishos aram. But what if somehow we knew? What if we weren't worried that you might take them off? Sounds like if we weren't worried that you might take them off and carry them daled amos rishos harabim, to go outside and walk in the rishos harabim while you're wearing your tefillin, that it sounds like is mutter. Okay, let's put that up against what we know. Why is that mutter? Where does this fall in? How are these tefillin categorized? Says the Mishnah Berurah. Mashma, the implication over here is the balav haytaimo, without the fear that you might take them off and carry them daled amos rishos harabim, lo haya aser lotzeis bahem. It wouldn't be aser to go out wearing the tefillin on Shabbos. After kaimelon, even though we paskin in Shabbos and Masechta Shabbos, even though we paskin in Hilchas Tefillin in Siman Lamed Aleph Sif Aleph and Chelik Aleph, Shabbos lavs man tefillin. Even though we paskin, you don't wear tefillin on Shabbos. So l'chayra, you're wearing tefillin on Shabbos and you're going outside to the rishos harabim. What are the tefillin? Are they a tachshit? Doesn't sound like it's a tachshit. It sounds more like it's the man wearing the engagement ring, right? Because how is it a tachshit? You're not supposed to be wearing it. Anybody who sees you outside Shabbos afternoon wearing your tefillin can think you're a nut. So how is it a tachshit? Shabbos lavs man tefillin. And if it's not a takshit, you also would not really jump to the conclusion that it's a malbush. It's not a sweater. It's not protecting you from the cold. It's not a shirt. It's not protecting you from the elements. So it's a little bit hard, points out the Mishnah Berurah. Why is it okay? The Mechaber says the reason it's not okay is because you might take it off and carry it. But if we weren't afraid that you might take it off and carry it, it's okay. Why is it okay? Shabbos Lavzman Tefillin, says the Mishnah Berurah, Mipnei shehem derech malbush. The answer is that it's derech malbush. Now, looking in the Gemara in Shabbos, that's the words of the Gemara in Shabbos. Mipnei shederech malbush avidi. Because you're wearing it as a malbush. Without getting too deep into it, let's just finish the Mishnah Berurah here. What it seems to mean is that tefillin are considered a malbush. They are a garment. Remember, back in the day, people wore tefillin all day long. It's not a necklace. You know, a necklace is a piece of jewelry. Today you wear this necklace, tomorrow you wear that necklace. The next day you don't wear a necklace at all. Instead she wears a brooch. This, that. Those are adornments. Something that a person wears on a constant basis, every day, all the time, it becomes a shirt. Now it's a malbush. It's a garment. It's no longer an adornment. It's not a takshit. It is a malbush. That's what the Mishnah Berurah seems to mean over here, based on the Gemara in Masechet Shabbos, which you can see he brings down in the Sharet Tzion, Eis Katan Chav Gimel, the Gemara Samach Aleph Amid Aleph. The Gemara says over there, tefillin, technically, to go out wearing them, would be considered a malbush, derech malbush avidi. It's considered a garment, and therefore it wouldn't be an issa daraisa. It's only an issa darabanan to walk out wearing tefillin, because we're afraid you might take them off in order to go to the Beis HaKisei. Okay, let's go back into the Mechaber. Let's finish Sif Zayin at least. Says the Mechaber, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines off the bottom, middle of the line. V'lo yotza katan b'min al gadol. A small person who has a size 7.5 shoe can't go out with a big shoe. He can't go out wearing a size 13. Why? Because we're afraid that it might fall off and he might come to carry it. Eis katan chav ches in the Mishnah Berurah, katan b'min gadol. What does it mean, katan? It doesn't mean a minor child. Hainu adam shu katan, a small person who has a size 7.5 foot, can't go out b'min shul gadol. He can't go out with a size 13 shoe. That's too big because it might fall off. Continues the Mechaber 3 lines up, the beginning of the line. Aval yoitziu b'chalak gadol. But even a nice petite person could go outside wearing an oversized coat. He could go out with a big garment. Why? Because we're not afraid you're going to get undressed in Rosh Hashanah because you're wearing something that's too big. The shoe, people walk barefoot, but we're not afraid that you're wearing your shirt is too big, so you might take your shirt off and carry your shirt. That we're not afraid of. Continues the Mechaber, V'lo yetze b'minol echad. A person cannot go out wearing one shoe im ein le makeh b'ragloi, if he doesn't have an obvious wound or problem with his other foot. Why? Because people will laugh at him, and he'll come to carry the shoe. He'll take it off and carry it. But if he clearly has something wrong with his other foot, then he could go out wearing a shoe on the uninjured foot. What does this mean? Again, person's going outside wearing one shoe. Well, it depends. If both of his feet seem healthy, and he's wearing one foot, people, when he's walking down the street, are going to look at him, hey clown, you're wearing one shoe. So by the time he gets to the 6th comment, he's going to take off the one shoe, and he's going to end up carrying it. He's going to carry it Daled Amos to Rosh Hashanah. Therefore, you have 2 healthy feet, you can't go out with one shoe. Now, why does this happen? I don't know. A guy woke up in the morning, he found one shoe, he didn't find the second. He said, well, I might as well not step on a nail with my right foot, even if I'll step on a nail with my left foot, so he thinks it's a good idea to go out with one shoe. But again, he's going to get comments in the street. He might come to take off the one shoe and risk it and carry the one shoe. But if a person has an injured foot, so then no one's going to make comments on him. They're going to look at him. They're going to say, I understand why he's wearing one shoe, because his other foot is broken. He's going with a crutch under his left hand because his left foot is chas v'chalila broken. So yeah, he's wearing one shoe on his right foot because he can't wear a shoe on his left foot. So they're not going to make fun of him That's what this means. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Tom, the reason for this is Mishum Desulam Echaychela. They're not going to laugh at him. The Yadi She'ef Shalolina Middle Baregel Shabamaka. They realize he's not wearing a shoe on the broken foot because he can't. The Makasam B'chachasalav V'ayin B'bir Halacha. We're at an hour, so I'm going to stop over here. We'll continue with Sifches next time. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The schus of limud HaTorah should be megan against Klal Yisrael. The Marsham should send Yeshua's reverse parnasim sheduchim to all in need. We should be zoichet to see the Bias Koyel Tzedek Ben Herav Yameinu. Amen. Be well.